You've done like so many things. And holding down mama at the same time. Yeah.
Yes, I think as women, we are multitaskers. Right?
Yes, that is definitely a...
Right, girls?
Yes.
We are multitaskers.
You have to be.
Yeah, exactly.
In order to work and be a parent. But yeah, well, you're known as a model and a philanthropist, but I don't actually know this. How did you get started? How young were you?
I was 13 years old when my mom decided to I have 5 sisters, and I'm a middle child. So we are the house of the 7 women. You know, as you can imagine, my poor
There
dad.
were no boys?
No, my dad. He was the holy man.
He was way outnumbered.
He was. So he had to really, you know, really not speak. He will be really, you know, not in his favor. But we all loved him very much. So he's spoiled by all the ladies. But basically, you know, I was 5'10" when I was 13 years old. And I was always walking like this, you know, because I was embarrassed, you know, like I was a foot taller than every guy in my class.
No, I have girlfriends that are tall like that, and they always felt like that, and I'm so short that I was like, oh, I've given everything.
I mean, but it's like, you know, there's always those things when
Grass
you're a teenager. If you're shorter, then you're surprised. If you're taller, there's always you're like weird anyway when you're a teenager, right? You always feel like the world is like...
It was awkward.
Exactly. You feel awkward. So basically, you know, I was walking like this, and my mom was like, girls, you have to stand straight. And we were like, it was hard, especially for me, because I was the tallest one in my family. I still am like over a foot taller than everybody. So she put us in this modeling contest, which in the end of it, it was like a course that every single one of our friends did. You know, this in China, my little village of 10,000 people. And then in the end, we were going to go to the mall. Like they have like a celebration for the end of the course.
Yeah.
That everyone would take the bus and go to Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo, which are the big cities. You know, they have malls and a play center, which was kind of like an amusement park. So we are all very excited. So we got to the bus. We all went to the mall, and then they found us, you know, this modeling agent, he saw 50 women walking around, girls, you know, in the black outfits, walking around in the mall, and he said, do you want to be a model? And I'm like, Mom, a stranger talking with me. I'm like, please. So my mom came in, and he's like, your daughter should be a model. So it was the first time in my life that I didn't feel awkward, because for everything else, I felt like I was like the ugly duck. You know, I felt strange. I mean, besides volleyball, it was good to be tall for volleyball.
Yeah, exactly. I played volleyball, and I only got to play backline, ma'am.
You see how it is? I was the center because I was the tall girl. So, you know, there's good things, you know.
Totally.
There's 2 sides of it.
You can reach all the shelves. That's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm good at reaching shelves. I'm good for that. So that's how it all started, basically on that mall when that guy saw me, like, so I was a foot taller, I guess, than everybody else that was there. So he saw me, he was like, she should be a model. I was like, okay, and that's
cool that something you were insecure about ended up being the kind of superpower for you in that situation.
Isn't it funny? Yeah. So that's what happened, and the rest is history. That was almost 30 years ago.
Wow.
So it goes by fast.
So your first language is actually Portuguese, but you learned English. Okay. They like this sexy Portuguese. All right. I had no idea that was going to get such an applause. That was amazing. Okay. But you learned English here in New York, right?
Yes. Well, I learned English with my cassette tape because, you know, I came to...
With music?
With Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men.
Sure.
Yes.
Are we around the same age? That's like my...
I mean, I'm 1980.
I'm 41. I'm 82. Okay.
So see, let's go.
Okay. I was like, those were my cassettes. I was like,
So at the time, you know, there were cassette tapes. So I was like all day, all night with my cassette tape. One side was Mariah Carey, the other side was Boyz II Men. And I would just be like memorizing, because I didn't speak a word of English.
Yeah.
You know, when I moved here, it was like 1995. I was 15.
That's scary.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it funny when you're like a teenager, you think you know everything?
Yeah.
And now at 43, I feel like I know nothing.
Yeah.
It's like amazing how you guys like, what happened? How did that? I'm like, I have so much to learn. But at 14, I thought, 15, I was like, I got this, you know? I was emancipated at 14 because I moved to Japan first. But anyway, that's a long story. But anyway.
So crazy childhood. Okay, go. Okay.
Just, you know, I thought I was an adult.
Okay.
But anyway, so later on, I ended up doing carpool karaoke. And I got to meet the Boyz II Men, and I was singing with them in the car. How funny was that? Like 20-something years later, and I told them that story. It was pretty funny, but I was memorizing, even though I didn't know anything that he was saying, the lyrics. I was like, I don't know what they're saying.
Because I love your learning English with "I'll make love to you." That's what you're.
I'll make love to you. That was me singing, and I had no clue what it was.
Exactly,
anyway.
it's great.
But the words were easy to say, and it was such a good melody, right?
Oh my God, my favorite.
So I know all those songs. You know, we can do karaoke sometime.
Me too. I don't.
Although I don't know if I want to do karaoke with you.
No. A little liquid courage, we're all great.
So
the Paris Olympics are coming up, and this will be my first time doing an opening ceremony. I've never even been there, and I'm hosting it. And you did it in Rio de Janeiro in 2016, right?
Yes, I did the walk.
How was that?
It was scary.
Yeah. Well, wait, you're great at walking.
No, I know, but not walking the entire Maracanã. This is like the longest. I don't even know how many miles. I think it's miles. I'm not sure.
Oh, no.
But when I was at one point, and when I saw the end of it, I couldn't even see the singer who was playing, you know, Tom Jobim.
Yeah.
And I was like, what if I fall? I mean, who's gonna come grab me? This is life. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Just make a joke of it.
So you just, I know. I was like, I don't even know. I just kind of pray, and I went, and thank God I didn't
Well, you
fall.
look like a goddess, yeah.
You're so sweet, but it was nerve-wracking. I feel like my legs were like, you know, like spaghetti legs.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna make it, but you know, those moments you pray and you just believe and you go.
Yeah.
And then it
That's
all
pretty
worked
cool,
out.
though, like where you're from and getting to be a part of that.
It was my last actually show that I decided to kind of stop doing shows after that because I was like, what's the better runway for me to end this chapter of my career in the runway than in my country being, you know, in the Olympics. It was so special. And the energy was so nice, too.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know, 90,000 people in the Maracanã, this big stadium with their
And everyone's cheering their own on. Yeah,
it was so beautiful. There was so much love in there. It was a special moment. I was grateful I got to do that.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
But so you have a new cookbook. I find this amazing because who wouldn't want to learn from you on how to eat or be healthy in general? But like, it's called Nourish. So why do this cookbook right now?
I always like to share. I'm a big sharer. I'm a Cancer, you know, so I just like...
Well, you grew up with a lot of siblings, so you had to share.
And every time, exactly, I learned how to share, even if I didn't want to.
Not a choice.
So I'm gonna share this between the 6 of you. So, so I grew up sharing, and I love sharing. So I have a lot of kids coming to play dates in my house, and then the moms would, you know, sleepovers, and they'd be like, how did you get my kid to eat vegetables? How did you get, like, just roast them and stuff. Anyway, so I started sharing some recipes with moms, like, you know, easy stuff. I'm not a chef, like, for sure not. I'm just a person who loves food, and I love to, like, play in the kitchen, right? So simple stuff, like just nice, simple, delicious things that, you know, I make. And I started sharing it with some friends, and I was sharing it with my sisters, and they were like, why don't you just like make a book and like share with more people? I was like, yeah, that's true. And then I was like, well, but food is my, you know, I love food, but I love the whole thing of like nourishing yourself. So
food is medicine.
Food, really. And then so in the book, I talk a little bit about like my philosophy. How do I get to eat the way I eat today? Because I kind of experimented with food the last 20 years. And this is kind of the result of where I'm at. Is not a diet. Is like, I believe food is to be enjoyed and for you to play with. This is why in the whole book is nutritious and delicious, but like really simple things that you can make for your kids they will love. You know, my kids love that food. So
are they picky at all? Like one of mine will eat everything and the other one is like nothing.
You know what you have, but they won't starve. I always say your kid won't starve.
He will starve.
No, he won't.
I promise you. I'm not the person that's like, you go to bed hungry. He just will not. He just doesn't, he's a texture, he has like sensory things as well, so a lot of texture bothers him. So, but my other one, they will eat anything and try anything.
Isn't it, it's funny like that, how kids are like that. And sometimes also they like one thing and the next day, they don't like it
I'm
anymore.
like, you just had this.
I know, I was like, yesterday you loved this, why are you not liking it today?
Yeah,
like,
why are you gaslighting me? I was like, why are you,
No, it happens, you know, so even in the book I have like make it yours or like simple swaps so people can have some ideas because I make this chicken pesto lettuce wrap and my son used to love that. But then he's like, I don't like chicken pesto anymore. Now I like mushrooms, so I'm making with mushrooms and sweet potato, you know, so it's like, so in the whole entire book is like, each recipe has like different ideas because I know moms out there, they don't have one kid. I've never seen one kid that likes what the other kid, so it's like, you have to make everyone happy. But you can make a base, like a simple meal, and you can have some ideas to add-ons, and that's kind of how I do. But the most important thing about the book is about meal planning. My mom taught me that because, you know,
like
she worked and she was a person who had 6 kids. So basically she would always prep in the weekend. So she'll make her broth, like I have her broth in the book, and she'll make like all the foods in the weekend, and then during the week, she'll have a menu on the fridge of everything that we were gonna have. So for example, if we had churrasco, I'm from the South, so we always have churrasco on Sunday. So when we have churrasco, is meat, right? So you have the leftover meat and you put arroz con carretero, which is with rice the next day on Mondays. So there was like, the way she made it, there was never any waste of food because it was whatever was not eaten
Which we could all learn a lesson from.
Which was amazing because she was able to get great produce and never waste anything. And it was always going to the next day and then it would be, anyway, it was, so
and
the whole thing is about
too.
meal planning, so you always have something healthy.
Yeah.
Is when you get organized, it's not an overwhelming thing, you know, because I think moms can feel like,
yeah.
I can't
imagine 6 children. I was going to say that in a minute. 6 children and a job and cooking at home. I'm like, what? That is the quickest way to get me to walk a plank. Well, meaningfully, like wanting to. Like
my mom, she's my hero. You know, she was amazing.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, once again, Gisele's book is called Nourish, and it's available in stores and online right now. And everyone in our audience is getting a copy.